be able to have it all, but not necessarily all at the same time. And when we are burning the candle at six ends, when we are not looking after ourselves, when we are not taking care of our mental health, our emotional well-being, our physical health, we're not getting enough exercise, we are going to get into trouble. And yes, we can take HRT to manage menopause symptoms, but often what I think is that issues associated with menopause, I call them rather than symptoms, I see them really as the canary in the coal mine. It's kind of like the body saying, you need to listen to me now. I'm going to give you a warning. I'm going to give you some menopause symptoms because you weren't listening to me and you need to change the way you live. And we can take the HRT and we can get instant relief, and HRT has a really important role to play for some women on getting you back just to an even keel where you can function, because sometimes menopause can be just so overwhelming, the symptoms associated with it. But even if you take the HRT, I would always say think about what your body's trying to tell you, because there's usually an underlying reason why your body is responding the way it does. Okay? So, for example, we get aches and pains and as we go through midlife and menopause, and that is aging, it's menopausal hormonal fluctuations. It could be stress, but it could also be that we're just not getting enough movement. I know very, very clearly that if I don't do yoga at least twice a week, I'm going to be 55 in a couple of weeks' time. If I don't do yoga at least twice a week, I am in trouble with pain. If I don't, you see, I do quite a lot of running. Well, it's kind of plodding, really. I call it running or jogging. And the more exercise I do, the more stretching I need to do. And if I don't do the stretching, if I don't do the yoga and my running specific stretches, I will have really restless legs at night. I will have sciatic pain if I'm sitting down. So I need to, you'll see now I'm actually standing up. So I'm standing at my desk. And it's really important for us to move because we're so sedentary today in modern life, aren't we? We're so sedentary. And we can get stuck in the sitting down box. So in fact, for aches and pains, let me tell you what I do. So I do the regular stretching, I do yoga. I also, a very good and very clever lady called Julie Angel told me about sitting on the floor. And so now if I'm watching telly, if I'm really tired, I'll sit on the sofa. But I try to sit on the floor. I have one of those little yoga zafu cushions and I sit on that and I sit cross-legged or I sit and stretch on the floor itself. So I've got my legs out, and the thing is when you sit on the floor, you get uncomfortable. And when you get uncomfortable, what do? You move. And then you fidget. And actually another very clever lady called Susan Saunders, who has written the Age Well Project and the Age Well Plan, and who's been on the Magnificent Midlife podcast very recently, she said that women who fidget burn as many calories as women who just do regular exercise. I'm thinking, okay, let's fidget some more. So, sitting on the floor, doing regular exercises, wake up in the morning and stretch while you're lying in bed. Do some, stretches just while you're lying there. So there's all sorts of things. So that's just aches and pains, because I know that that is a real issue for us as we go into midlife. So if you're watching, if you have any questions at all, please do ask. I can't see if anybody's watching. This is the rather irritating thing about the new interface we have at this end. I could be talking literally for an hour and not know if anybody's there. So if you're there, comment moderation. What does that say? I don't know. I think it's all right. So I'll keep chatting, okay? So the other thing that we really need to sort out in midlife is our diet, right? So let me tell you something about diet. Let me tell you something that I learned when I went through the early menopause. And then I forgot about it for about a decade And then I was reminded about it very recently by another guest on my podcast, who is Jackie, who wrote The Happy Menopause. Yeah. So blood sugar levels. It's really important for us to manage our blood sugar levels and to balance our blood sugar levels. Why is that the case? So when we go through menopause, we lose a lot of the estrogen because the ovaries stop creating estrogen. But we still have other places in the body where we make estrogen, right? One of them is an adipose tissue, which is our fat tissue, which is why it's increasingly difficult to keep, fat off as we get older, because the body likes to store it to give us more estrogen, right? The other places are the brain creates its own estrogen. So I've been researching this because I'm writing a book, and I think this is really, really interesting because there's been a lot of talk recently about taking HRT to help protect against Alzheimer's. But actually the brain produces its own estrogen. So we don't necessarily need HRT to protect us against Alzheimer's because our body is creating estrogen, and it's probably creating the right kind of estrogen because the body knows what kind of estrogen we need, right? So, and also the other place that creates estrogen after the ovaries stop is the adrenal glands. But the adrenal glands are also responsible for our stress hormones. Well, they're responsible for many, many things, but particularly our stress hormones. Now, there are two ways that we can put stress on ourselves. There can be external stress, so there's a real tiger out there and we're really stressed. Or we're feeling really stressed because we're not managing our stress very well. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But there's also, we could be really, really calm, but we're putting stress on our body because we're not balancing our blood sugar levels. So if our blood sugar levels are spiking because we're eating the wrong things and we're eating them at the wrong times, then the body will respond as if we're under stress, and it will prioritize the production of the stress hormones and not the estrogen. So that is why it's not good for us to be stressed at any time of our lives, but especially as we go into perimenopause, because we're just adding to the big mix of stuff going on with our bodies, right? So how do you balance your blood sugar levels? When I went through early menopause, I was put on a special diet, and I was told to eat a little and often. So every 3 hours, I was to have something, a source of protein, like some almonds are nuts, and or even some peanut butter, but sugar-free, obviously. No sugar. I could have some fruit, but limited fruit. So a source of protein. I had to cut out alcohol, sugar, caffeine. All of those things are going to spike our blood sugar levels and cause stress. I had to cut out dairy as well, actually, and then eat regularly, right? Within 5 weeks of me changing the way I ate and what I ate, and to eat loads of organic stuff, and to cut down on synthetic ingredients in personal products as well because of toxin levels. So within 5 weeks of changing everything, I had a menstrual bleed. And I went back to the doctor, I had another hormone test because I was trying for a child. That's why they allowed me to have the hormone tests. And I was back to being premenopausal, having been told I was postmenopausal. How about that, eh? So that explains the hormones are going like this, but I didn't know that then. And clearly the doctor looking after me didn't know that either. So it didn't last for a very long time. It lasted for about 9 months, and then my body went back to doing what it wanted to do. And I don't know, maybe it was because I didn't keep up the regime, but I still don't have any caffeine, and I love being caffeine free. I try not to have too much sugar. I don't have very much added sugar. I have dark chocolate, and I have fruit, and I have the occasional dessert. I don't have any dairy milk still. I have cheese. I don't even really have yogurt. I have soy yogurt and I have soya milk. And I've upped my natural phytoestrogens as well in the form of flaxseed in particular and hemp seeds and things like that. which I have on my breakfast cereal because that helps to balance our hormones as well. But the blood sugar level is really, really important, and a lot of people don't know that. So it's an easy way to not put extra stress on our bodies. And just getting that right can make a massive difference to how well we feel, how well our hormones are balanced, because the body can just do what it's supposed to do instead of fighting these blood sugar imbalances and these spikes, right? So think about your diet, all right? And I think also try and eat organic as much as possible, because of the pesticides on non-organic stuff. There's in my podcast with Susan Saunders, we talk about, let me get it right, the Clean 15, the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, I think it is. So this is a list, two lists, which you can get in the UK and the US, EWG in the US, and I think it's some kind of Pesticide Action Network or something here in the UK. But what they do is they tell you which fruit and vegetables are the most covered in pesticides and which ones are not. So for example, soft fruit like strawberries and blueberries, if it's not organic, it's likely to be covered in pesticides. And washing the fruit isn't going to do anything because it's not just covered, it's built into the fruit. So it's worthwhile, if you can, if you like blueberries, and I have a big blueberry habit, trying to get them organic if you can, because the soft fruit is going to have a lot of pesticide in it. Whereas cauliflowers don't have that. Don't know why, but they don't. They don't have much of a level of pesticide at all. So you can quite happily buy an ordinary non-organic cauliflower without worrying about the pesticide impact. Same thing with meat. If you're a big meat eater and you're not buying organic, we are not what we eat, but we are what we eat has either eaten or been grown in. So if the meat you are eating has been pumped full of hormones and antibiotics, that's what you're going to be eating. So think about that in terms of trying to eat as healthily as you can, because all of those things are going to add to the toxic load in your body, which is going to impact your hormones during the perimenopause years. Okay? So there you go. So we've looked at aches and pains, we've looked at diet, managing blood sugar levels, we've looked at reducing pesticides and toxins in our diet. Not in our diet, in our diet and in the products that we use on our skin. Because don't forget, anything you put on your skin goes into your body. Okay? Exercise. Exercise is massively important as we go through midlife. I have found that, if my body aches and I go and run and stretch and do some movement, guess what? My body doesn't ache as much when I've done that. It's hugely important for managing our stress levels, for managing anxiety, for managing symptoms like hot flushes during perimenopause years. So what kind of exercise do we need? We need aerobic exercise. We need something that'll get the heart going. So that could be walking very fast, it could be running, it could be cycling, it could be rowing, could be swimming, could be anything that gets your heart going. So we need aerobic exercise. We also need weight-bearing exercise because we need to put some impact on our bones, right? So there was somewhere, where did I hear this, that hopping. So I've now started hopping. I go running, so I've got a lot of impact on my bones just by jogging. And there was a menopause documentary a few years ago where they had 3 groups of women. They had women who did no exercise. They had women who did like yoga, but not particularly weight-bearing yoga, just sort of, I don't know, maybe it was cycling. I think it was cycling. Women who cycled and women who ran. And because of the impact of the running on your bones, it was the group who ran who had the strongest bone density, which I thought was really quite remarkable. So think in terms of trying to get some sort of exercise into your system that has some impact on your bones. I know a lot of people will say they have problems with their knees or their hips, but try it very gently. You may find that that is really more of an alignment issue. Maybe you need to go and see a physio. So go and see a physio, get checked out, and see if they have some advice for how you can safely get some impact on your bones. Yeah? Okay. So the other thing we need is we need weight bearing, as in lifting weight. So not just putting weight and stress on our bones, but on our muscles, right? So we need to be lifting weights, which will help our bones and will also strengthen our muscles. Now, why is it do we need to keep our muscles going? So we put on weight as we get older, right? Our metabolism goes down, and it goes down from about the age of 30. So by the time we get to midlife of sort of 45, 50, if we're still eating the same as we've always eaten, and we're doing the same level of exercise as we've always done, guess what's going to happen? We're going to put on weight because our metabolism has gone down. We don't actually need as much food as we did before. How can we maintain our metabolism? By increasing our muscle mass, by maintaining our muscle mass. And you can build muscle mass into your 90s. So get yourself some hand weights and do proper exercise like that, you know, or lifting them. I mean, I've got some bars in my local park, and I've been using those to sort of, you know, pull on, or do press-ups, you know, or do lunges, you know, no, those lunges, that's more stress-bearing on your bones, isn't it, really? But actually lifting weights, yeah, or get yourself those resistance bands, and just so when you're watching telly, you can be sitting on the floor doing some resistance work, yeah. Doesn't need to be difficult. Susan Saunders has weights next to her kettle, so when she's boiling some tea, she's doing her weights. You know, it's all just good exercise to do, okay? So those are the 3 things that we need to think about in terms of exercise. But if you are doing exercise, you will find, I hope, that your menopause transition is a lot easier. Okay, so what about sleep? Another one. It's massive, isn't it? So exercise is going to help with sleep. If you've been doing some exercise, if you've made your body tired as well as your head, then you're likely going to sleep better. And we will look at sleep within the Revitalise program. We'll look at all of these areas, and we'll look at the things that are specific to you and what can specifically work for you, you know, so that what I'm giving you now is sort of general information, but through the program, we will actually look at, you know, what are the things that will work for you? What is manageable within your weekly routine? What can you do to increase your level of movement and exercise? So it's not difficult. I don't want it to be a chore. I want it to be something that's actually really enjoyable. And we'll look at sleep. We'll look at stress management. Now, I have had to learn to manage my stress better because I have no doubt that working a very, very stressful job for a very long time was what brought on my early menopause in the first place. The fact that I just wasn't looking after myself. I was so busy and stressed out. I was a single mom at the time, or just before that I was a single mom. And where was I going with that? So that I'm sure that it brought on the early menopause because, oh yes, I hadn't even noticed that I must have had irregular periods. I was so out of tune with my body. So I now try to meditate when I remember. I have a regular journaling practice. I make sure that I go out into nature regularly because I have realized that if I don't do that, I get into trouble. And often my run walks in the morning, they'll tick both boxes for that because I go on a very, very pretty sort of nature walk. Even in North London where I live, it's beautiful. It's along the New River and there's all birds and it's lovely there. So that ticks my exercise box, it ticks my stress management box, you know, and it ticks my setting my circadian rhythms first thing in the morning box so that I sleep well in the evening. That's another trick to do, is get out in the daylight first thing in the morning so that you set your body clock so that when it comes time to go to sleep, you're ready to do that, okay? So lots of things to think about, but what all of this does, if you take the time to do it in midlife, is it will set you up for long-term health. And that's what the Revitalise program is about. So health and well-being is just one component of what we'll be looking at. What else will we look at? We'll do a complete audit of your life now. What are the bits you need to focus on, and what can you go, okay, that bit's all right, don't need to worry about that. We'll look at reconnecting to you, your values, your strengths, your personality, because you may well have lost track of who you are now. We're different as we go through midlife. I find that really exciting. I find that it is a real period of transformation. And the Revitalise program is a 6-week transformation, really. It's designed to be that exactly for you. It's an experiential program. Yeah, it's exciting. So we have 6 tutor group sessions. We'll meet live every week for about 90 minutes, and there'll be, you know, content that we'll work through, we'll discuss. There'll be some self-reflection exercises to do between the sessions. And then we get onto health and well-being. Then we look at dreaming. What's going to light you up going forward? What will excite you and give you joy every day as you go into your magnificent next chapter? And then finally, we're going to create a magnificent action plan, which will be your own plan for how you're going to go into your magnificent next chapter and what you're going to do. Yeah, and it doesn't need to be set in stone. It doesn't need to be big and grandiose, but it will enable you to take the first steps into that magnificent next chapter, which hopefully will set you up for long-term excitement, fulfillment, purpose, and joy, because life's too precious just to go with the flow if the flow isn't what you want. And as well as taking time to sort out our health and well-being in midlife, I think it's really important to connect with who we are now, to mark our transition from a younger woman to an older woman, and actually mark that, celebrate it, you know. I see it as incredibly empowering. So enrollment closes tomorrow. I will put the link below this video so you can go and check out some more details and come along and sign up. It's the most economical way of working with me. This is based on the kind of work that I do with my one-to-one clients, but in a group setting. But the group is limited to 10, so it's going to be a nice, small, intimate group. So I don't know if there's anybody there watching who would like to ask questions. Anybody have a question? You're making tea, aren't you? So anyway, I'm going to I hope that was been helpful. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can get me at rachel@magnificentmidlife.com, and you can find out the details of the Revitalise program at magnificentmidlife.com/revitalise. So go and check it out. And, you know, if not now, then when? You know, when are you going to take the time to invest in yourself? Because guess what? If you look after yourself, you're in a much better position to look after everybody else, which I'm sure you've been doing for a very long time. All right, I am going to bid you all good evening. And thank you so much for hanging out with me and watching. If you're still watching, you're very good. Thank you. And I hope to see you in the Revitalise program. I won't be running this again until the autumn. So if you want to really get to grips with making some positive change in your life, now is the time to do it. And I hope to see you there. All right then. Bye bye.